bit, and so you don't concede too many tries. You don't give too much away. She's someone's going to battle it for you. So I think she's definitely a good bench option.
Were you at all worried about how Saints would do when Faye Gaskin? I mean, how unfortunate, how unlucky to sort of land awkwardly when you're celebrating scoring setting up the try in her role in it. A great cut out pass out to the winger for the opening try, and twist the knee.
There's definitely a thing in the women's game about unfortunate and slightly comic injuries, isn't there? Because you had Sophie Robinson's leg break when she was scoring a try, and there was another one I'm struggling to remember from a couple of years ago that was, didn't someone run into the corner flag or something similarly stupid?
Possibly.
I mean, there is something about the amount of ACL injuries that you're seeing in the women's game. It does feel quite high, and I know there's been some research done in other sports around the amount of ACL injuries that female players seem to pick up, because it does seem disproportionately high.
I mean, it's important that Faye Gaskin's not, so seriously injured that she can't recover in time for the World Cup, because she'd be a great, part of an England team at that stage. But the way Jodie Cunningham just slipped back into the half positions, because she knows that side inside out, up and down, left and right. She understands all of the calls, all of the plays. She's probably not quite as skilled a passer, maybe, or a runner. I don't know. She's just not quite as classy as Faye Gaskin, but has all of the same knowledge, can deliver all of the same skills, and more than well enough to run the show from that point on, didn't she? And she has obviously great foils to her side when she's giving the ball to Rudge and Hardcastle.
Yeah, exactly. And on the other centre you've got Carrie Roberts, who's a fantastic player and seems to be someone who's very, very hard to stop and very hard to bring out. She's got that extra athleticism that she does keep going, and she just seems very hard to actually put on the ground. So I think she's someone who you can get some quick ball off, and she's quite a powerful sort of strike runner from that. I mean, whether she is someone who you want to move into the second row at some point is another question.
Well, she scored a fantastic try, didn't she? That showed some of her speed as well that she's got. That makes her perfect for the centre position. Kerry Roberts in the second half, down the short side. But the best tries were probably the long range ones scored in the first half, and Emily Rudge's try was absolutely fantastic, and to hold on and just outpace Kelsey Gentles was, because everyone's seen how fast Kelsey Gentles is, was great stuff, I think, from Rudge to finish that try after some really, really clever passing play in the middle of the pitch, picking on that player who's defending out of position, is a bit tired. Absolutely spotted perfectly by Cunningham to put Rudge through.
Yeah, the to coin a phrase, the vision and awareness from Cunningham was top notch.
It was that.
But overall, I mean, a fantastic game to watch. Even despite this, in spite of the scoreline, the spectacle to watch was brilliant and really fantastically presented from the BBC. And they also had two separate commentary teams on as well. So it's they put their backing behind it, and it was very professionally done. My only thing is, it was a shame that we had to have Robbie Hunter-Poole, but isn't it always?
Well, exactly. Great stuff. I think we've covered it all there. It was a disgustingly good performance from St Helens, which I'm not happy about them winning, but this team deserved to win some silverware at some point, and we'll see if they can carry that through the rest of the season. Let's move into the men's games then, and the first of the semi-finals was Hull FC against St Helens. It was 14-2 to the Saints at half-time, and they won in the end 33 points to 18. Liam Moore was the referee. There was a piece of disciplinary conduct that came out of this one. Josh Griffin from Hull FC got a Grade C dangerous contact charge. He's received a 2-match penalty notice, which he will serve during his enforced long injury absence, because it looks like, well, it's pretty much confirmed, isn't it, that his season is done and has had surgery on the Achilles that he ruptured. But we'll get to that. No stats on the cup, but we've got lots of fan views to make up for that, haven't we, Tim?
Yes, we have indeed. Starting with our St Helens correspondent, St David, who said the men followed the women with a slow start, though credit to Hull, the left edge got us in front. Griffin's injury and drop ball opened a gap, and King Jack pushed us clear. Hull fought back and a 40-20 had us worried, but Regan's intercept and finish did the job, and the boys brought it home. Wembley, here we come.
Yep, Pop the Viking said, a game of two halves. Saints had the better of the first half and deserved lead before a great comeback from Hull. A forced pass from Hull leading to an interception for Grace to seal the win when Hull could have played a bit smarter. Feel for Griffin in the injury, but he dropped the ball in play and you play to the whistle. Hull fans booing and calling the ref would have wanted their players to do the same.
At Aidan Stalker said, amazing grace is an understatement. Really hope Saints can win it this year, but the lack of the likes of Lee's, Parsi and Bentley is going to catch up with them at some point.
Carson said, this defence from Saints is frightening, but Hull were beaten by an Achilles. And what did Mark Sneed think to have a go at Big Alex? Yeah, that was one of the comedy moments that I'd almost forgotten.
I'd forgotten about this.
When Mark Sneed was trying to have a pop at Alex Walmsley. And I sort of think Walmsley didn't know what to really do with himself because he doesn't seem like the overly violent type when it comes to the heat of the moment outside of his ball carrying. And also, Liam Moore sort of suggested to Mark Sneed that he'd probably done him a favour by getting involved. And he didn't know what he was thinking in the first place.
Yeah, Mark Butler said, admit it, when Hull had tackles in the bag and were 3 points back, you thought Saints had fucked it. But let's face facts, they're still the best team in the league, and they sniffed an opportunity to break hearts is typical of them. Regan Grace is good, isn't he? That episode of SLP with Mark's stat breakdown of how they had 4 better wingers than him seems a long time ago, especially as they sell one of them a year.
I mean, I've said this a number of times. My comments about Regan Grace weren't that he wasn't good. It was that people were getting too excited too quickly, and I wanted him to strengthen the parts of the game that he wasn't good enough at, because there was lots of other wingers who at that point who were delivering more consistent performances, not just for at Wigan, but across the board. But now he's stepping up in big moments. He had a really big break, didn't he, in the grand final a couple of years ago against Salford that kind of helped get Saints rolling when it looked like Salford might be coming back into it. He scored tightrope tries in big games against Wigan since then and stuff. So, yeah, and this moment was just right up there with showing that he's got a more complete game now. He understands how to play rugby league at the top level more.
Yeah, I mean, I've made no secret of my adulation for him over a number of years.
And that's probably why I pointed out that we were getting too carried away.
But yeah, again, he's got that thing where he is able to compose himself at those moments and come up with things that just take the game away from people. And it's just, I mean, I similar to Mark, I thought Hull were in a sniff of it, and they might be able to get over because they were on top at that point. And I actually spoke to my dad, and he said that he was listening on the radio, and at this point it sounded as if it was all one-way traffic from the way they were talking on the radio broadcast. But yeah, Regan Grace just has that thing about him that he's able to just come up with something, and then before you know it, it's all over.
Yep. Frogmore said, all I can say is I'm glad we won. Looked a bit shaky towards the end there before Saints remembered they had time left on the clock to score more points. We are reminded how good Grace looked in open space at full flight. The Saints are past a semi and so am I. Hashtag harder than a woodpecker's lips. We might have an episode title.
Fatboy_Rob says, shithouse move from Farge. Poor reffing to allow play to go on. It looked like FC could still do it right to the end. Should be an easy win for Cass in the final.
Joshua's granddad said, Farge try fine by the letter of the law, but against the spirit of the game. Connor interception pass was one of those things. It comes off FC wins. At the end of the day, left ourselves too much to do after 40-20, I believed it was on. Final try flattered Saints. FC guilty of not putting points on the board when exerting early pressure. Desperately need a big ugly bastard of a prop to come off the bench because Satai and Sau are having to do it all.
Yeah, Scoot said, if last week's scoreline flattered us, then this week's flattered Saints. In the cold light of day, I can't really blame Farge, but would have liked the whistle to be blown sooner. Satai and Sau again drove the team forward. Great 40-20 from the Snake, only then to give the ball to Grace to put the game beyond reach.
Lee Whitnell said, thought it was a good game, especially the second half, which was incredibly tense. Hull wronged in the first half and driven on by their noisy fans looked like they might nick it until Grace's cruel interception try. All the Saints fans around me agreed that Farge had displayed unsportsmanlike behaviour, but consoled themselves that this was because he was French rather than because he was a stain.
At Mike Webb 58 says, brave effort from Hull to fight back. Sad and unfortunate for Josh Griffin, but Theo only did what any other player would do. Saints will need to keep going for the full 80 if Cass put in a repeat performance at Wembley. Morgan Knowles exceptional again, especially at Saints. As Saints, by self-infliction, began to run out of forwards.
And Dr. Hideous said, like in the earlier women's game, Saints' opponents dominated early on but couldn't turn that into points, leading only 2-0 after 15 minutes. A few moments into the second half, Saints were 18 ahead and looked to win comfortably, but what a comeback from Hull. 3 behind with 10 minutes to go, and Hull attacking strongly. Grace's interception and the try was a thing of beauty, but also so disappointing as it sealed Hull's fate.
So, where do we start?
I think, the Regan Grace try was kind of reminiscent in a way of the Cartoon Dogs try in the quarter-final against Wigan, because whilst Wigan were the second best side for the game, they had a chance of getting something out of it right at the end, but an interception went the other way. I think Hull were better than Wigan were in that game, Hull in this game. So, but yeah, that was the absolute crucial moment, but there was, of course, a hugely significant moment that lots of people have talked about, Tim.
There was, and I've done I've had a quite serious Achilles injury, and you don't have a clue what's going on at that point. You just know it feels like you've been shot or someone's sort of taken a metal spike and stabbed it in your leg. So the fact that John Wilkin in particular was saying that he should have done better and held on to the ball, I think is absolute rubbish, because there's no way you could do anything. I think the biggest question should be why any of his teammates that were stood around with their hands on their hips didn't fall on it or try and put up a little bit more resistance to do something about it. I think that's probably the bigger question.
I also don't think Theo Farge had time to stop and think, is the guy seriously injured?
No.
The ball literally came to him almost before Griffin had landed on the floor. It did feel to me hugely bizarre that he just dropped it. Like, I get it. Like, he was it was a searing pain. He didn't know what he was doing. It wasn't thought about and what have you. I would think these players are trained and conditioned long enough to... You think about the amount of physical things these players go through and do keep hold of the ball. And that's all. That was what I was thinking. I just think it was so bizarre that he gave up the ball. But I want to be able to slaughter Farge for what he did, but I just can't say that he had the time to stop there, make a moral decision on what he should or shouldn't do in that situation. I think it was just hugely unfortunate, and what most, if not all, players would have done is what happened.
Yeah, and also it then gets into the where do we draw the line about, if you want to stop for every injury, what's to stop, Jake Connor, for example, to pick a hypothetical player, suddenly dive down clutching his ankle, and then we have to stop when there's a break on and they're about to concede a try. It's just that's where it'll end up. It'll go down into a football route if you try and equalise it. As you said, Fiascos wouldn't have had time to process until the ball was well on the deck and he was stood up. I think